Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the From Busy to Rich podcast, where we help financial advisors grow their businesses beyond the products they sell and the assets they manage to increase profitability and reclaim your time by providing strategies and insights that will not only change your life, but practice. Wes, it's great to see you, sir. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, Justin. Excited about our discussion today.
Yeah, you threw me for a little bit of a loop when you sent this one over, so I'm not even going to tease it out. I'm just going to hand it to you. You go ahead and kick it off how you want to kick it off.
Yeah, so this is out of a term that I use a lot, and I'm getting better at wrapping language around it. But I thought we just gotta have a discussion about this, and it is around this idea of being a beautiful savage. Because what we want in our organization and what we want to help our clients do is we want expressions of beautiful savages. And I want to talk to everybody today about what I mean by that, because I think it's going to resonate deeply with your own journeys out there, everybody that's listening, and it'll help you make better decisions and live with fewer regrets and make a bigger impact and increase your profitability and quality of life and all of those that you serve along the way. And I'd like to tee it up. I found this poem, and it's unnamed who wrote it. So if we have any listeners that find out who wrote it, great, send it in. I could not. But here's what it is. It says, "She was a beautiful savage, beautiful in the way she spoke words of a warrior full of wisdom, savage in the way she dared to conquer the deepest of combined fears, beautiful in the way she loved, savage in the way she dared to let love change a part of her." And I love this, and I want to go kind of deeply explore this idea of what it means to live life as a beautiful savage. Because I think the way we mean it and the way we want to tease it out, it really is one of the best ways to live. And you want team members that have this component and this quality in them. And we actually want to make sure areas we're not showing up as beautiful savages, that we figure out, how do we get there and why aren't we in these specific areas? Here's what I think about, Justin. I think about all of us, we talk about it all the time on the show, but all of us have this gap. The gap between where we are and where we want to be. Gap between what we see today and what could be tomorrow. And the gap between where we are and where we want to be never actually goes away. It just moves. And everybody kind of knows that, because you've had successes in your life, you've accomplished things, you have things in your life right now that you once hoped for, prayed for, wished for. And even with all of that, you right now, if I sat with you and asked you questions about, hey, what do you want 3 years from today to look like in all the big areas of life that you care about, like your professional life, your financial life, your relationships that you have, the physical health you're in, your spiritual life. And I was to tease that out of you, we could get an idea of what a beautiful life, a rich life looks like for you in all these particular areas. And it's different from where you are. And that actually, I believe, is one of the most beautiful things about people, because we have a unique capacity to be able to create a vision for the future that is bigger and better than where we are today. We can be wrong about it. We certainly all have wanted certain things, and as we got closer to it, go, I don't think I actually want that anymore, or gotten certain things, and we're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. But in us is this thing, and it's where faith lives. Faith is the substance of things we're all hoping for, evidence of things we have not yet seen. It's where anticipation lives. We're coming in the summer months, depending on when you're listening to this, and many people take family vacations and they've already got them on the calendar, whether that's to the mountains or to the beach. We've got one coming up to the beach, a couple different beach vacations this year. And even thinking about it, it just gives me a sense of anticipation, excitement and something to look forward to. And that's a big part of the human condition. Now, with that, I think that's a great thing. I also think that you can get confusing because people say, well, aren't you supposed to be content with where you are? And here's what I believe, Justin. Contentment has nothing to do with the absence of ambition. You can go to extreme, and you can be so focused on the future that you're not enjoying and you're not great being where you are today, and you're not enjoying the journey along the way. And so that you do need, what I believe is, in addition to a big ambition, you need a grateful condition. But not having a big ambition, and sometimes failures in life, sometimes things that didn't work out like we planned, maybe something that shows up unexpected, like a a divorce or a health setback or a financial setback or something on those lines, it causes our vision to get really small. But we're not happy when that is. Arthur Brooks, behavioral psychologist. He's written a lot of books. We're going to talk about one of them today on kind of the art and science of happiness. He teaches a class at Harvard that we've spoken about before that has a 3-year waiting list. And because the one thing everybody wants is to be happier, even if you're happy. If I said, hey, if you could be happier, would you want to be? Everybody's going to say yes to that. Nobody says, no, I don't want to be happier. Arthur Brooks does a beautiful job breaking down the micronutrients of happiness, which play well into this gap. And they are enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. So to be truly happy, you don't just need one, you need all those components. Enjoyment is pleasure combined with people, combined with memories. So that's all about like that grateful condition we can be in. You and I could tell stories about hunts we've been on together, about dinners and experiences we've had with people and friends, and just those memories of what was or accomplishments that we had. We get this beautiful combination that it makes us happier because we need enjoyment in our lives, and enjoyment is often times historical in its nature. It's celebrating what has been. And so you do need that. The other side of the curve, which we started out talking about, is meaning. And meaning is faith, family, friends, and work that matters to others. So faith is that big ambition. It's the what are we hoping for? What evidence of things not yet seen is in our life? And family and friends and work that matters to others, that is a unique aspect of that big ambition. It means it has to do with somebody other than you. It means that you care about somebody other than just what's happening in my life to me. I have other people that the things that big ambitions we have affect positively the other people that we're working with, that we're working for, and that we're doing our lives with. And then I think right there in the middle is probably the most, I guess, I think unobserved, or maybe a better way to say it is like overlooked aspect of happiness, of the micronutrients, is satisfaction. Satisfaction only comes from overcoming hard things. Only comes by delaying gratification in this moment, not trading what we want ultimately for what we can have immediately, and oftentimes involves a little suffering, maybe even a little pain, and getting through a hard thing. And it's these things, when I think about what a beautiful savage is, and I look at some of the people that I love working with, doing life with, their components is they are a beautiful savage because they have this big ambition and they have a grateful condition. And as they hit these things in life that are hard, they have a capacity to just savagely move in the direction of the resistance between those 2 points. As we say all the time on the show, that most of us live 2 lives or have 2 lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. And between those 2 stands resistance. And a beautiful savage has those components. They've got that big ambition, grateful condition, and a savage persistence to navigate the gap of that resistance. So thoughts on that before we keep going here?
Yeah, I didn't know what to think when you told me you were sending me a poem. This turned out much better than what I was anticipating. I was like, thank you.
I almost sent you a different poem just to mess with you a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised. But I love this as a topic, and it's funny to think about this really, because if you break it down, especially in any area where you've been or been successful, this structure or framework is somewhere written into that intertwined and weaved into the story that created that outcome or result. And I like to think about it from the sense of like this applies to so much more than just a business component or even just a thing that you're going after. Right? Like I want to lose weight, I want to win this race or win this prize. It's something that's grander in scale. It's really a state of being and how you come and approach and present yourself and how people are going to view you. And it's so interesting because it applies to so many other areas of life. Like I would love to be defined as, and I hope I am, by my wife and my daughters as a beautifully savage when it comes to my love and care for them. beautiful, hopefully in the way that I show up, but then also represented the savage pursuit that I have to protect them, to continue to grow, and willingness to self-sacrifice in any number of ways so that they're taken care of. And I would hate to ever be defined as the opposite, an ugly savage or beautifully lazy. Really, what's the alternative? Because, and we talked about this before, you go through life by design or by default. So how are you showing up? And if it's not by design and it is by default, if you're not intentional about these things, there's you may occasionally show up this way, but there's no way that you're doing it all the time. So you're having to fall into one of those categories if you're not paying attention to it.
Yeah. And I think that's a great starting point to saying what are the key components to being a beautiful savage in any area of your life. And one of them is you have a big ambition that is frequently and regularly realigned. Because as you know, I mean, you and I go to strategic coach. So every 90 days, we take time to think about what does a rich life look like in all the areas of life we care about. And it is not shocking to me anymore, just because I've been around the sun enough to see this, how many talented people that could have just be making so much more intentional progress in life are doing life by default. They're not designing their future. And they'll say things, well, I don't have time to go to those classes, and you guys are spending money on that, and that time away, I could be working on stuff. But but where's that work taking you? Is the deal. Is it leading to a life that is beautiful, or are you leading yourself in a direction that ultimately you're going to regret, or you're just going to show up to and it's not going to be as satisfying as it could have been? That is, you never walk away from coach. You never walk away from transform, for that matter. Those of you who are going to be jumping into that with us, without clarity over what you want, or at least what you think you want. And most people, if you're not a beautiful savage, one reason may be that you just gotten so busy, you're doing life by default rather than by design. So takeaways, if you're listening to this, one takeaway today is go right now. If you're listening to this, pause it and design what you believe a beautiful life looks like in all those big areas of life: financial, professional, physical, the relational, and then the spiritual. Tell your story. What does a beautiful life look like in the year of life, the year in the life of you 3 years from today? And because then you've got a point, a waypoint, at least, to then begin to narrow down what you're going to do about that. But unless you start there, you're not going to be a beautiful savage. You may accomplish a lot of stuff, but not what you could have created, and not the beauty you could have created. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think going along with that, you also have to be willing to take an honest personal inventory, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
creating these waypoints and direction of things to guide by that I do want to pursue to bring out that savage part. And I do believe that every person has these components within them and probably have experienced them somewhere throughout their life. But it's how do you take that same framework and then apply it to these new pursuits, these new goals and objectives? And then also, how are you showing up right now? Is it beautiful in that area, or is it ugly? Like
Yeah.
not like having an honest inventory and personal inventory within those areas. How am I physically, spiritually, relationally, and asking and getting feedback? How do you perceive me? I
Yeah.
think that's critical if you're really going to be honest about this and making something that is not just intentional, but is realistic with
Yeah.
where you want to go. I think that'll be a huge point.
Yeah. And I think it couples together, right? So if you think about this, one of the other components of being that beautiful savage is a grateful condition. And because we have people that are pushing towards, if I set an objective and I say, hey, this is what we want to try and accomplish and why it matters, I can help build. And sometimes, listen, I get it. People are wired different. So it doesn't mean you always have to be the inventor of the future. Like you can see somebody else's version and go, that I think is beautiful. Of all the ones I've seen, I want to cobble together. I think those things are great. And oftentimes the job of leaders in an organization is to say, hey, here is where we're going to go together if you're on this bus. And people can get excited about it, get behind it. But they are so, and they do have that savage component, maybe even of being willing to, hey, I'll push through, I'll do the things necessary, but they're ugly. And they're ugly because of how they show up, because they have such an absence of gratitude over where they are on the way to where they're going. And there's so many things we can talk about here. Again, one of the things we do regularly, and you could this exercise can be done in lots of different forms, but it's like this 10-year look back to say, what are my greatest moments list, right? Listing out all the things that, oh man, this happened, and you can pull out your phone, you can look at your phone and say, man, pictures oftentimes bring to mind all the things that, man, a lot happened over the last decade. A lot of things I once prayed for, a lot of things I once had on my list and was hoping for. And what that exercise does, and again, most people just don't do it because they're so busy going, well, I got to run. I'm so busy. I got to get out there. Is the gas they're running on is not a very healthy fuel. And they're not experiencing joy where they are on their way to where they're going. And they show up that way. And in fact, then oftentimes what this can lead to, if they're not careful, if you don't have that grateful condition, is the way they're approaching every day is with a have to mentality instead of I get to mentality. And you're never going to enjoy your life, and you're ultimately not going to accomplish as much with a have to mentality versus a get to mentality. I heard the other day that yes, we do often have in our lives things we once prayed for, and then oftentimes we find ourselves complaining about the things we got that we once prayed for, like if you have like you have young kids right now, Justin, and oftentimes when they show up and you're having a meeting and they're like yelling and running around you, in that moment, you can easily go, oh my God, you can be frustrated about it. Or you can go, you know what? There was a time where I once prayed for you to be here. and granted, you got to, put some guardrails up so they don't do too disruptive for what you got going on. But it's true about anything really in our lives as it pertains to that, is celebrating the fact of, man, this is a highlight moment. I get to do this. I get to be a dad. I get to be a husband. I get to be, I get to do this work that I get to do. I get to go work out in the morning. I get to, prepare myself for this thing that's coming up. That's a heavy lift, but man, I know I'm going to be so satisfied on the other side of that. But our self-talk, as we're navigating these things, it's one of those things that never goes away. I do think a beautiful savage, in addition to having a, exciting vision and a grateful condition, I think they have a very, very powerful, I'll call it a scanner, Justin. And what I mean by that is the scanner they use to view the way the day goes. So, there's I was listening to Ed Millett the other day. Those of you who don't follow his podcast, I recommend it. He certainly doesn't need any help for following from me, but if I could get him a couple more, I want him to, because he's added so much value to my life. But he's talked about this idea of many times we need to fix our scanner. And he said this, it is a mental act of ignorance to scan for the negative. It is a mental act of ignorance to scan for the negative. What if you decided to be a person that believes good things were going to happen? And what if you were a person that was optimistic about what was on your horizon, that people were going to be attracted to what you were doing, opportunities that you don't even know about are coming your way? And instead of just looking at, oh, I have to do this. This is difficult. This is hard. Oftentimes, you and I talk about this all the time. When people come to you, and again, if you're a person of that is helping people and increase their profitability and quality of life, if you're helping people to have a better life experience, oftentimes people will come to you with problems. And that's fine. That's fine, but it's not fine for you to just let them sit in the rocking chair of the things that they don't like. But here's what it often is. It's totally ungrounded pessimism. They come in and they say, here's all, things aren't going well. This is hard. And I'm so frustrated. I've got all this burned out. And if you just go, hey, that's I get that. What would have to happen in your day for you to think it went great? And I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not an absence of resistance, because a necessary component of happiness is overcoming hard things. And the moment you begin to think that what it would make me happy long term is to sit on the beach every day, even though I love the beach, I'm excited about going, after a while, if you don't have a big purpose that matters, that you're having to do hard things to push towards, that's not a happy life. So I'd love to get
Mm.
your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like fishing. Like if fish just jumped in your boat, it wouldn't be quite the same experience as the fight.
Right.
You're enjoying the fight and you celebrate the win when the fish lands or when it breaks off. You're like, oh, all right, like there's an excitement, a story. Even in failing in that catching that fish, there's excitement, opportunity, and a story that comes along with it. And just as you're talking, I started thinking about that country song, Trace Adkins. All right, that you're gonna miss this.
Oh, yeah.
It's just one day, the things that seem like a struggle or a challenge right now, and he's talking specifically using the example of kids in that story, right? Like there's some babies crying in the background, and then somebody like a father figure or the plumber, whoever it was, talking about like you're gonna miss this some point later on in life. Because again, the things that we once hoped for you receive, but then also like seasons change and the struggles and things you may be facing right now, like you may wish that you could go back to like I thought those were hard before. Those were easy. Like the things I was worried about when I was 19, it's a completely different component. And then you couldn't be more timely on the discussion around I get to versus I have to. Just the nature of this weekend was Memorial Day weekend, representative of people pay the ultimate sacrifice for our country to be able to protect what we get to do. And it's such a unique opportunity and time of year where we take that perspective back and really step back and say, I truly get to do the things, even the things that I complain about or seem challenging or like I don't like or want.
Yeah.
But the reality is nobody forces me to do anything.
Right.
I don't know a single adult. You may do things that you're not super excited about at times and don't want to do, but nobody truly like forcing you to do, maybe if you're in prison. So there are some extremes. Those of you not in prison and incarcerated currently, for the most part, no one is.
The age of about 9 years old or in prison. Those are the two times people can force you to do things because you can pick people up at 5, right?
Yeah.
And in prison, you got guns and they're all in a place. But most things, none of us are forced to do.
Barring those extremes, and if you're listening to this, you're probably not in one of those two categories. But no one's forcing you to do it. So just changing that, and it really the experience of life in general becomes different. Like not just people feel you and receive you, but how you receive everything around you in this goal. And then also whether or not you're going to achieve your goals. I've yet to see anybody who's in that beautifully lazy category or even in the ugly savage category ever truly arrive at some of those destinations that they're trying to set.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as we kind of wrap up on this one today, Justin, the other thing I think which you hit on there is really a beautiful savage is one who consistently carries a healthy perspective. And what you just said about like the people that pay the ultimate sacrifice. I just got done rereading a part of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And, for those of you who don't know, you need to pick that one up if you haven't picked up that book. Viktor Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor in the Nazi concentration camps. They killed his family in there. And he developed out of this philosophy called logos therapy that is so powerful and so healthy. And it's built on the premise that the primary human drive is not pleasure or power, but rather the search for meaning and purpose in life. And how no matter what the circumstance, in fact, there's a quote that we can kind of end on here today, but he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And when you can just think about all the things that you have going on in your life, if you're clear about your big ambition, you're constantly reflecting on and carrying with you the perspective of your grateful condition, and you look forward to the battle that you're going to, the dance of resistance that you're going to go to with that savage persistence, it is really the only way to live.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's session. For more on this one and other episodes, highly encourage you to go to the website, wesyounglive.com. There's a ton of additional resources and a ton of other podcasts. Until next time, you guys take care.